Hey, by the way, how do you decide on the month? Is it like April because it's published in April, or April because it's the news of April? It's April 2023, and we're talking about the PHP news of last month. I'm Brent.
And I'm Roman.
And this is PHP Annotated Monthly.
Okay, so first we have these PHP minor releases of the branches that are currently supported. Those are bug fix releases. If you're using these versions, please go ahead and update. Let's go to Pest 2. So, do you use Pest?
No. I once did a video course about testing in PHP, and I did it with my colleague back then, and he did the Pest version. I did the PHP unit version. And so in essence, I always found it's just a bit different. I don't see much added value, but with recent features that I've been seeing on Twitter, I think Pest actually does add a lot of value compared to plain PHP unit. So I actually might be considering switching. But
yeah, so originally, as I understand, it was a wrapper or a extension kind of for PHP unit built on top of PHP unit that provides you a nice syntax that looks like jest, but for PHP. It really looks nice. But yeah, we're starting with this major second version. It actually provides quite a few additional things. So for example, this architecture plugin. So you can actually define some rules and some constraints on your code base. So for example, like here it says like your models, like everything that goes under this namespace can only use database. And if you, for example, someone adds a model and it tries to use a namespace out of the database, then the test will not pass. So it's sort of architectural constraints that you can add in your application.
I think that's pretty cool. And this is one of the features that really got me thinking. Pest really does offer some advantages, especially if you're working with a team of programmers in bigger projects. It's also kind of replacing something that you might do with static analyzers before, but with such a clean API, and it's just a test and a couple of lines of code.
Yeah, I think there was this depth track tool. This one, I think it's more mature, you can say, but it's sort of like a static analysis tool, and it allows you to, it allows you to define these rules of what can do what in your application. What I don't like about it, like if going here, it's just like you cannot easily understand how to start with it, because with Pest it's super easy.
That's definitely, and I think that's kind of the Laravel influence that you're seeing there. Just very clean documentation, very clean API, easy to start using it, which is one of the reasons Laravel has been growing so popular, and one of the reasons why so many libraries within the Laravel ecosystem are doing so good.
Exactly. So shout out to Nuno and the team for doing a great job on this.
Definitely. Congratulations.
Bref. So
also
Bref,
version 2.
Yeah. We actually will have a lot of version 2s in this edition. So Bref is a tool that allows you to easily deploy your applications, your PHP applications on AWS Lambda platform, basically serverless applications. It's very, like, the first version was very easy to use. I used it for my Twitter bot before they banned clients, different clients. So now I don't run it on Twitter. I plan to run it on Mastodon. But anyway, so the tool itself is pretty cool. And in version 2, it became faster, easier to configure with some additional features. And I think he provides like framework support, specifically Laravel support. And Matthew, the author, he says that this framework support is reworked. Although for Laravel there is Vapor, but I think Vapor is more kind of a dashboard thingy, so it provides way more than just a CLI tool. But if you want to build it yourself, the Bref is the thing to go.
Also, congratulations to Mathieu then for getting to version 2. Things are really maturing here in the PHP community.
What I wanted to add is that there are actually other platforms, serverless platforms, except for AWS Lambda. There is DigitalOcean Functions. Yeah. And Matthew on Twitter, he wrote that he can add support for those in Bref too, but he needs basically sponsorship. So if you work with DigitalOcean or some other platform, maybe you could consider supporting Matthew to build this integration in Bref.
Yeah.
Yep. Congrats on version 2, Matthew. Oh, yeah. And there is his newsletter. So if you want to know more about serverless PHP, you can check and subscribe to his newsletter. Yeah. Okay. So Per, that's how we say it, Per coding style?
Per, PER.
PER. So PER was a new type of standard from PHP Fig. It's like an evolving standard. Basically, we had this coding style standard, don't remember the number. Then it was upgraded, and there was PSR 12, a new standard for coding style. And then it would mean, if we continued with PSRs, it would mean that with every PHP release, we have to release new standard because there are new language features, syntax language features. But they suggested that we have this one evolving standard that going just to have like versions, like packages have versions, and this standard will also have versions, and it will just be updated with a new features. If you want to know what's the difference between PSR 12 and PER, there is this div. So they added new things, like in examples like enums. They added support for not support, but like mentioning the trailing commas everywhere. So for example, here, like in some PHP version, recent PHP version, they added support for a trailing commas in argument list. So now you can, if you have a long declaration, you can split it into several lines. And then after the last argument, you can, or actually parameter here, you can add a trailing comma.
Would you use
trailing commas?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. I mean, once someone asked me, like, why would you use that? And the reason is simple. If you add another parameter or argument or whatever, and you have trailing commas, then when you add a new one at the end, then it's just one line change. But if you don't have trailing comma, then it's two line change.
Two line change. Yeah.
I mean, the reason is simple, but so one of my friends, when I was working with him in one team, he used to keep the comma on a separate line, but I don't remember how it looked. Yeah, maybe you can cut this.
No, I'll keep it in.
Okay.
Such a strange behavior, and it's not following PER. Dare I say so?
Yeah. I think there was an example of how you should format your function body. So basically, when you don't have body in the function, for example, if it's a constructor property promotion, where should you put these curly braces?
Mm-hmm.
And they have clear answer to that. You should put them on the same line. Here it is.
Okay. Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah. So if it's like multi-line declaration, then it's on new line.
Yeah, but the curly brackets are kept together. That's
yeah. This one
makes sense. Yeah, me too. Yeah,
so it's not that much in this standard, but it clarifies a few things that were not there in the PSR 12, basically because at that time those were not yet a thing in PHP.
I can remember if I shared my opinion on the matter before, so I won't do it now. but I mean, it's okay. It's okay. I don't think it makes that big an impact. Now I am sharing my opinion. Let's just move on.
Yeah. Okay. PhpStorm 2023.1.
I think the biggest new features for me that I'm most excited about are, of course, the new UI changes, but that's an ongoing project. Being able to run Scratch files on eval, that's pretty cool. Just being able to run a Scratch file on any PHP version without having it installed on your local machine. That's thanks to the eval API that's available. I think that's a cool one. Custom regex-based inspections are also pretty nice, where you can write a regex that matches some kind of pattern in your code and suggests a quick fix to make changes to your code. So I think those are the features I'm most excited about. Of course, I'm forgetting performance. We did quite a lot of work on that. I would suggest if you want to read more about it, you can scroll to the blog post there, or watch the video that I did. So
yeah, so in the video, Brent mentions the most important things. But if you want to know like what everything that has changed, that was added, you can go through the blog post and it covers everything. Mm-hmm. Okay, the PHP Foundation update. I can comment on this because I wrote this update. So first, when we just started, we were quite ambitious with posting updates, and there were a lot of things changing back then, and we published updates every month because it was very hot. But now, when things are getting a little more stable and the processes are well organized now, it's not like a lot of news every time. So, and since we cover all the, Ayesh covers all the PHP core news in his roundup series. We decided that we're gonna post updates quarterly. So, and those updates will be combined with reports. So we did this report yearly last time, like with mentioning all the funding that we received and the impact that PHP Foundation made. So we're gonna do this now quarterly. So the first update of the quarter one will be out very soon. We also opened sponsorship on GitHub, so we're still going to use the Open Collective platform as our distribution platform, and getting funds into it, and then paying developers. This is what Open Collective does for us. We're gonna still continue using it, but if you're more comfortable to donate via GitHub sponsors, you can do it now. And if you're donating 10,000 or more, you will now have an additional benefit, and it's membership on advisory board. So advisory board is sort of a forum for big sponsors where they can share their pain points, their ideas, discuss them with other sponsors, but also with us, with the PHP Foundation. And we will take this into account. We don't promise that those ideas or pain points will be addressed immediately. But if we see that the whole advisory board is on board with some idea, like all of them supported, then it's a clear message to us that we need to think about it and do something about this.
Yeah, but you're still in a way limited by the official RFC process. You cannot just push a feature and be done with it. You're still having to go through internals, right?
Yes, of course. And again, I found this part actually a good part because it's sort of like a barrier, like you may call it a quality gateway or something like that. Because not every single idea should make it into the language. It's okay if some things take longer to address. Maybe there are some problems with, like, we don't know who are those people who vote on RFCs. Sometimes it's just not clear how to get this vote. This is a problem. We need to address it sooner than later. But the whole mechanism, it works and it's fine. So this part will not change, and the foundation, of course, is compliant to this mechanism. So there are a couple conferences where you can meet PHP Foundation admins and developers. I think the biggest one is International PHP Conference in Berlin. There will be many people from the foundation there: Sebastian, Niels, Benjamin, and George. And you can meet Sarah at PHP Tech in Chicago. Actually, at PHP Tech, you can also meet PhpStorm team, and there will be elephants. So I should have mentioned Laracon US, because at Laracon US, there will be, again, PhpStorm team and myself. And since I'm part of the PHP Foundation, you can also talk to me about PHP Foundation there. But I'm not going to give a talk about the foundation there. Derek received an award. So
that's pretty cool.
This award is also for, he made it into honors list, actually. And partly due to work on the PHP Foundation and PHP Core. And of course, we mentioned our sponsors and also sponsors that helped with not money, but some other help. And I need to mention Slack, and specifically Matt Brown here. Shout out to Matt,
cool.
Who is a Psalm author. He helped to provide Slack to PHP Foundation as a communication platform. Without Matt, it wouldn't be possible. So thanks a lot, Matt, and thanks to Slack. Yeah, that's all.
Well, it's great to see that so many people helping the foundation in so many ways. I really hope there's a bright future ahead.
So every release of PHP has release managers. And a few years ago, I think starting from PHP maybe 8, there is a tradition that there are always 2 newbies, rookie release managers, and some veteran release manager who helps these rookie folks. So in this release, we're going to have Jakub, who is a PHP Foundation developer. And this release manager work is also sponsored by the PHP Foundation. And Eric Mann. Eric Mann is a long-term community member. And also, I think he wrote a book recently. I haven't read it yet, but it seems like a nice book, and it's a fresh book, so I suppose it has all the new features of the language mentioned. So pretty nice if you're just starting with PHP or you want to get to a new level. Okay, let's get to PHP core changes. So the first one, it's arbitrary static variable initializers. You can declare static variables in functions, and then they will stay between the calls of this function. The value will stay. I haven't used it much in my career, but the limitation that what was there is that you could only use values when initializing them. But now you can use basically any expression, like, for example, result of some other function. Yeah, anything. But what's more important is that during this change, Ilya, who's the author of this, he made some changes to make this syntax more strict and forbid some weird.
Yeah, that's pretty strange. So in this example, x would be 2, even though it was returned. Oh yeah, so the output would be 2.
Yes, yes. So
strange.
As far as I understand, there is sort of a compile stage in the PHP interpreter. It finds these static declarations first without like running the code. So that's why it will be 2. But then when it runs the code, it doesn't matter. It's already 2.
Okay.
But still, it's so weird. Like you clearly expect nothing happen after return, but in a way it happens. Yeah, so now with this will not be allowed in PHP 8.3. Okay, do you want to tell us about clone with?
I'm super excited about it. I mentioned it in the previous episode as well, because there were some additions to being able to override read-only properties in the magic clone method, which is it's a good thing for cloning, like deep cloning objects. But this is something that's going to be really useful, and I really hope the the RFC will pass. There is an alternative to this approach with declaring functions specifically as clone functions, but they have some drawbacks. I think they are listed in this RFC as well. Basically, this RFC allows you to clone an object and override properties while doing so also when these properties are read-only, which makes sense because you're creating a new object when cloning an object. So there should be the freedom to copy over maybe 50% of its properties and override the other 50% of the data. It's a very common pattern. I think the RFC also mentions PSR7 with HTTP factories and stuff like that. It has become pretty common in many PHP projects. I like it as well because it gives more certainty that data won't change unexpectedly. It requires a little bit of a different mindset when you're programming because you cannot. Well, if you're applying this pattern, you cannot simply go start change objects and expect it to just work. You need to reassign values. But I really like it, and I would really, really like it if this RFC makes it into the language, because right now I've written a small package for it. You can already do it in userland, but it's cumbersome. It requires additional reflection magic, and this would be just perfect. I think this is what we need. So
yeah, I agree. I think it has high chances to pass.
Yeah. It seems like a very solid RFC.
Exactly.
Who made it actually, Ilya?
Mate, because I think he was.
As you can hear, I'm pretty excited about this. Let's just really hope this works out. So everyone who can vote and who is watching this, please remember me.
Yeah. So there is another one quite exciting, I must say. So George is working on implementation, and Dan is helping him with the RFC, and they propose to update and fix some issues with autoloading. Basically rework the implementation of autoloading, and from inner perspective, the implementation will be more clear and probably less buggy. But from user perspective, the main thing is that it will allow you to autoload functions. So currently, what you have to do is if you have like helper functions, or if you're trying to like work with functions, not classes, then you have to put them either into a separate file and load this file somehow, or you have to create a special class and add static methods there, for example, and use class autoloading in this case. But with this change, you will be able to actually autoload functions pretty much the same way as with classes. So there will be a special function that allows you to define callback, and this callback function, it implements the logic on how you find the functions. Pretty much the same way it is working now. So I believe Composer will add the implementation, and you will not have to care about it. So all you would need to do is just add a use statement for function, and it will be loaded. So we'll have to wait 2 years for PSR 40 to appear, of course, to update their autolay. I'm sorry. I don't know. I might scratch this. But Composer will take care of it. Right. Yep. Yeah, I believe this will happen pretty quick. I mean, the PSR maybe will follow at some point, but I mean, if there's one player who's entitled to just choose whatever way they want to go, it is Composer, because it's the de facto standard. So everyone should just follow what I think Jordi decides on, basically. Yeah. But it's great seeing this being added. Let's really hope it makes the vote, and it means that PHP 8.3 might actually become a rather exciting release if all of this gets added. That's pretty cool, because we're still it's the end of April now. I think feature freeze is beginning of July, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's usually June. June. So this is feature like freeze. Yeah. So July 18th. Oh, nice. So July. I mean, there is still some time to get these awesome features in the language. Nice. That would be pretty cool. I think this is one of these issues that's been addressed for years now, and it's really
cool seeing it actually. I mean, the RFC hasn't voted on yet, but at least there's work being done on it, and people are researching it and discussing it, and yeah, I'm really happy with that. Very cool.
Yep. So the last one I wanted to highlight is this technical committee RFC. So what it is about? So we have this RFC process for making decisions on language changes, but there are sometimes decisions that are purely technical. So, for example, decisions on the implementation or decisions on the refactorings. So we go to these commits, we can see that there are many changes happening here. Not all of these changes, they have RFC behind them. And sometimes the changes could be controversial. This is exactly what happened. There was a big refactoring made, and many core contributors were not in favor of this refactoring because it was just changing the code without clear benefit. It was not clear how to proceed with this. So some contributors were okay with this change, and some were not. So how do you make the decision? And at that point, they decided to have an RFC and vote. But you cannot make RFC for every such change. It would be a bit overhead. And also, the biggest problem is not the overhead, but people who vote on the RFCs. So many of those people, they are not maintainers of PHP. So from their perspective, some refactoring could sound like a nice thing, but they don't know the consequences of such code changes because they don't maintain code. I mean, they can make a decision on language design because they work probably with language every day, or they work with other languages. On this part, yes, it makes sense, but not the technical decisions where you have to be a maintainer. So this problem, this is what Jakub proposed to address, and Larry helped with RFC. Cool. So they proposed to have a technical committee that consists of 5 people, of contributors. They are only invited to help when there is a conflict. So if there is no conflict, if there is a consensus on some change, they don't get involved. But if there is a conflict of different opinions, then they can be invited to make a decision. So hopefully this passes too.
Yeah, pretty nice. I think it's a good solution for dealing with this problem. So
yeah. So about the tools, I actually wanted to start from the end and talk about something exciting that Marcel is building. So imagine that you could create desktop apps with PHP and even with Laravel, like you can see here. So this, I think there were many attempts to make this possible with different approaches, but the approach that Marcel is doing is super simple. It's basically he takes Electron and ships it with the PHP binary, static binary, and runs PHP code with the static binary. I'm not sure though how he's doing the web server part, because you would need to serve this. Maybe he's using PHP's built-in.
I believe it's something they made, or it's not something like Nginx or Apache built with it. It's just something custom for this. But there's a web server, of course, running because PHP is still running on the server side.
Yeah. I mean, I think they could ship it with, for example, React PHP and run PHP server with React PHP, or they could ship it with again statically built binary with the Swool extension, again, which has HTTP server in it out of the box. So it's pretty cool.
Well, it's pretty cool because this is completely standalone now. You don't need to install PHP to run this.
Yes.
So they can decide whatever kind of extensions and things they want to add to that built-in compiled PHP installation, because it's just shipped together with your application, and you don't need to worry about it from the user side. Hey, Marcel.
He even shared like iOS
Yeah.
example. It's pretty cool. I'm very excited about this. I anticipate Laravel community building different desktop apps with this.
Yeah.
So you can see that it will be like a very Laravel way. But again, I think it will, if he builds this could be easily adopted to any PHP applications because it's not tied to Laravel. Super cool.
Yeah, very exciting.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it. And so the reason I wanted to first mention this is because I wanted to tell about this thing. So basically, it's a tool that allows you to create the static binary of PHP standalone that you can add anywhere you want. And and you can see it could be with Swool or any other extensions. I think it originally built by some Chinese guys, but and it's built on top of this PHP micro. It's like a micro subset of PHP, but it works like it supports everything. It's not like a subset of PHP that there are only some features supported. No, it's like all the features, but they just made it smaller so that the binary is like very small, like 5 megabytes or so. Neat. Maybe Marcel is using this. I don't know. We'll see when he releases native PHP. I wanted to mention Laravel Valet again. I think we are speaking about dev environments in every PHP annotated, and I'm really excited about like local dev environments. And Laravel Valet is exactly what it is. It's a local dev environment. Although it's called Laravel Valet, you can actually use it with any PHP project. So they released a new version which doesn't have a lot of new features, but it has exposed integration. It has reworked internals. Then Laravel IDEA. It's a plugin for PhpStorm. It's a paid plugin. It's super cool. It adds lots of features. And if you're not using it yet, maybe you should try.
Hey, one thing I noticed here is Thomas for Truba. I don't know if I pronounced it correctly, but he's been totally into the Laravel ecosystem now. He came from Symfony and he's like majorly converted. He's not. He still likes Symfony as far as I know, but he made a PHP stand analysis for Blade templates. How cool is that?
Yeah, I don't know what are the checks, but it seems like a nice idea.
Yeah, it's definitely something that I always missed in when using static analyzers.
Yeah, but do you add lots of logic in Blade files that you have to analyze?
I really appreciate PhpStorm static insights into which variables are available and stuff like that. So I reckon this can do the same and automatically detects which variables are passed to your view.
Okay. Yeah, okay, yeah.
The controller.
Yeah, so for example, the variables that you use makes sense. So I wanted to mention this post by Andres Müller. So what he suggests is that you have to you should avoid one-liners in PHP, and I totally agree with him because I don't know if he will have example. Yeah, so he will have this example. Okay, so on the first look, this seems like a better code because it's small, it's concise, and easily understandable. But debugging, if you have this code, which is exactly the same, debugging this code is much easier because you can put breakpoint here on this line, or you can put breakpoint on this line, and you can understand when it gets in this branch. But you cannot do it with this one-liner. And I mean, with maybe this one-liner it's super simple and it doesn't make like much sense to put breakpoints here, but sometimes these one-liners can be really long and smart, but like I'm a big fan of stupid code because maybe I'm not that smart. And the more code is simple and the easier it's for me to put a breakpoint somewhere and go through the code and analyze it, the better for me it is.
Yeah, that makes sense. I do think the debugging argument goes both ways, because if you're using a Xdebug, for example, you would be able to just put your breakpoint on that one line and you get insights on what's in my global get array, and probably also get insights on what's the result here of this iset call and stuff like that. So I think in that way, it's not that strong an argument. But on the other hand, the majority of the PHP community doesn't use Xdebug. They use dump and die debugging. So it makes total sense. This is somewhat an argument that I can get behind as well. Actually, I've definitely run into these scenarios where I needed to debug something, and I'm mostly in the dump and die camp here. I had to like pull my code apart and rewrite it just for debugging, and then I put it back together after I'm done. This really happens more than once. So yeah, it's definitely an interesting argument. So this one I wanted to quickly mention as well, the EnvMapper package, where Larry wrote some code to basically convert environment variables into structured data transfer objects, basically. And I really like this pattern, not just for environment variables, but also Thomas, actually, he did the same for Laravel settings recently, where you don't just return an array of data, but where you can use objects now with proper types to create your configs. And I really like that approach, because it makes it so that the user in many more cases knows what they should provide instead of having to look up documentation. You know, it's actually such a simple thing to do, just creating an object or a read-only class with some type properties, and basically that's it, but it really helps out. So yeah, I just wanted to comment here. I really like this pattern, and Thomas also made it for Laravel settings. So yeah, I think it's worth looking into.
Yeah, it's so simple, but it makes a lot of sense. It makes your code more reliable, I think, when you can just be sure what's coming.
Yeah, and so what I've been noticing lately is that I'm writing quite a lot of code for some of the projects here on the channel, and there are so many cases where a read-only final class, in my case, but let's not discuss final, where a read-only class with typed public properties is all I need to, model data, and it helps out so much. I really like that PHP got promoted properties and type properties, actually read-only classes now. These are some great additions that I really enjoy using.
Regarding final classes, I have to mention this. I'm not sure which side I'm on. Like I think I was on the side of not final. But recently I discovered that Kotlin, it's the language by JetBrains, it has final classes by default.
Yeah, I think you mentioned this in a previous episode as well.
Okay, then you can cut it.
No, because it's difficult to explain, because we're so used to a certain way of programming. And just recently, I think yesterday on Twitter, within the Laravel community, this happens every 2 months. Every 2 months, someone complains about final and they get a bunch of likes and retweets, and it's like, hey, karma. But here's the thing, what we're missing in this debate is that if you decide to use final, you have to adjust your coding style. You cannot just make your classes final and expect everything to work the same way. You'll have to write your classes in a different way. And I actually was working on, still am working on a project for an upcoming video here. And I started out with final classes. And then I was like, there's a bunch of code duplication here. Maybe I should just extend and make my life easier. And I did that. And then I noticed, maybe 1 hour into refactoring, that I'm actually making it more difficult, because now things are all connected with each other, and it starts to create a mental like a spider web of classes together, and it makes it so much more complex. While if everything is final by default and you use proper interfaces and final implementations of those, yes, there might be some duplication, which you can work around with proper abstractions and by applying patterns. And the whole idea of things being connected and changing something in class A having an effect in class B, that just goes away. And I really like that simplicity, but it requires another mindset. But maybe that's a dedicated video I should work on, to have a little rant about this, because I feel like the final debate, it always ends with, hey, I added final to my package and it's all crap now. But that's just the first step. You need to take a couple more steps to actually enjoy using final classes.
I think it's a good point to stop. And
I think it is good to stop indeed. Yeah. But I really enjoyed the news this month. And if all goes well, we're back to our normal schedule now, because I'm working full time again. I'm done with parental leave for now. So, Roman, I want to thank you for being here. And I want to thank you for watching. Definitely leave your thoughts in the comments down below. Also subscribe, because there are a couple of very cool videos coming up that, I'm super excited about. I'm working hard on getting everything ready, but it takes some time, but we'll get there. So definitely subscribe, leave a like, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
The month, is it like April because it's published in April, or April because it's the news of April?
I mean, both. It's just that I missed March just because I didn't have time to finish it.
You pick it. I'm Roman. And then I'll... What's that you're doing? It's a weird noise.
Sorry.
You can just... Be quickly with it.
Okay.
Yeah. Not doing that, but
I was just making table a little bit lower. Just maybe I can go to toilet for real quick.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm all alone now. Roman does have a lot of elephants. You see that? Can you see that? I'm quite jealous of it, because I have 5 in total. He even has the woolly mammoth thingy. I do have the PhpStorm elephant, the special one. I think there are only 500 of those. So I'm pretty happy with that one. Do you have any elephants? It's kind of lonely. Perfect.